Welcome to Side Hustle Rules. My name is Lou Reyes, and today what I've got for you is I have got my all-time favorite clothes. Yeah, I'm going to share with you my all-time favorite clothes. Actually, what I'll do is I'll give you an example of how I used this clothes when I was just starting out in sales, and I've used it throughout my career. And I will say to you that it's helped me to generate hundreds of thousands of dollars in sales. I've also used this clothes or taught this clothes to my sales reps. I also teach this clothes now. I teach it to my business-to-business clients. So I think it's a clothes that you could really use to exponentially increase your sales, increase your revenue, of course, increase your profits. I'll tell you about this clothes right after this break. Come on! Welcome back to Side Hustle Rules. My name is Lou Reyes, and today I'm going to be showing you my all-time favorite clothes. It's called the Instant Reverse Clothes. Before I tell you about this clothes, before I give you the example, though, I do want to mention that if you are interested in starting your own business, I do have a absolutely free side hustle starter kit. It's something that I assembled. It walks you through the 8 steps of starting your business. And these are 8 steps that I've learned as a person who ran a chain of business-to-business magazines, somebody who's actually sat down with literally hundreds of business people over the course of years. I can tell you that virtually every single person that I spoke to, they've had to go through these same 8 steps. So there's a free side hustle starter kit that outlines these 8 steps. You can click on the link in the description box and it is all yours. So now let's get to the instant reverse close. The instant reverse close is really a strategy. It's a format that if you follow this format, if you actually follow it step by step, what it does is it just helps guide you to the sale. But I'm going to tell you something here. It only works if you believe or follow these 4 rules. Number 1, if you believe in your product. And when I say believe, what I mean is that product that you have, that service that you have is really helpful to a client, to somebody who's paying you their hard-earned money. Number 2, you have to have empathy for your client, your prospect. You have to have empathy. You've got to care about them, because if you don't care about them, it will come through. Now, the other thing is, I started with number 1, meaning you got to believe in your product. But number 3 is that product actually has to offer a solution. Any technique, any strategy that you use won't work. It won't work. Maybe in the short run, it'll work. Someone buys your product, but they're not going to buy it again. You actually have to solve a problem. This isn't all about technique. It's not all about a strategy to get the money into your pocket. It's really about providing that client with a solution, providing them with a great product. And number 4, rule number 4 that I follow, and I follow this religiously, is you have to be able to back that product up. In other words, if that product doesn't work for that client, you've done everything. You qualified them, you asked them all the questions, you really feel like you're giving them the best solution to their problem. And if it doesn't work for them, well, you got to back it up. And by that means 100% guarantee. And yes, I sold advertising. And back in when I was selling advertising, one thing that I did is if that did not work for my client and they weren't happy, you know what? I would give them a free advertisement. I would do whatever I could to make them happy because I wanted to keep them as a client. But just as importantly, I wanted them to be happy. So those are 4 rules that I want to make sure that you follow. And now what I want to do is I really want to get into the instant reverse close. I first learned about this close by reading a book by Brian Tracy. It was called The Art of Closing the Sale. He came out with this book in 2007. I got to tell you, it came out with the book with this close at the right time because back then, way back then, I was starting out, had no real sales ability, no skills, no knowledge, and I was just hoofing it, man. I was just getting out every single day, knocking on doors, making phone calls, and I decided I needed to learn from some of the best, and I just started buying sales books and more sales books. So I learned about this close from Brian Tracy. Want to give credit to where credit's due. So let me give you an example on how I use this particular close. And what I'll do is I'll give you my example, and then what I'll also do is I'm going to go back and explain to you step by step what I did and what I was thinking as I make these statements. And the example is this. I ran a chain of business-to-business magazines, but I also ran a trade show company, which I built into a national trade show company. And one of the things that I did myself was I would go and talk to groups of people. I would tell them about buying an exhibit space or sponsoring one of my events. And invariably, when I'm standing there in front of a business person, invariably somebody would say, "How much is that?" And I'd tell them how much the price would be for a booth or a sponsorship or whatever. And I would tell them the price. And invariably somebody would say, "You know what, that's too expensive. I can't afford that. I'm just a small business." And then what I would do every single time, and this is the instant reverse close in action, I would look at them and say, "That's exactly why you've got to buy this booth. It's exactly why you've got to buy a sponsorship. It's because you can't afford it." They look at me and I've got their full attention, and everybody else is looking at me too because they're like, "What's Lou talking about? The guy just told you can't afford it." And I'd say, "Well, let me ask you, Tom, how long have you been in business?" And the guy sometimes would say 5 years or 10 years or whatever it would be. And I'd look at them and I'd say, "So you've been in business for 5 years, and you can't afford to spend the $500 or the $1,000 that's going to generate you at least 10 times the money, 10 times the money that you invest." And they'd look at me, and I could see their wheels spinning. And I would say to them, "You don't want to be waiting another 5 years or 10 years and be in the same boat, the same position where you can't afford to spend $500 or $1,000. You, in my opinion, should beg, borrow, or steal." And not literally, Tom, but beg, borrow, or steal this money, because this money is going to make you back 10 times, 15 times, whatever it is. But your money you're going to make your money back, and I'm going to guarantee it. How can you lose? And you know what happens after a presentation like that and after an exchange like that with a person, with a business owner? More often than not, they're saying yes. But you know what else happens? More often than not, there's a line of people who are waiting for me when I get off the stage and I get done talking in front of the room. They're waiting for me. They want to find out more about it. How can they buy one of my exhibit spaces? How can they buy a sponsorship? And it's just what we call the instant reverse close. And again, I got this close from reading a book by Brian Tracy, a book that he wrote published way back in 2007. The instant reverse close. So I did say that what I would do after I gave the example is I would tell you what I was thinking when I was talking to that person. And in this example, that person's name is Tom. And yeah, I do know that I did give you tell you some of what I was thinking as I was going through that part of this particular presentation to you. But let me say this. I absolutely have empathy and have always had empathy for the people that I'm selling to, because I know that $1 out of their pockets, $1 that they can't spend to buy something for their family, or it's $1 they can't spend in their business to buy maybe some supplies or to pay an employee. So I'm cognizant of that. And I'm always empathetic. So when I'm selling them, I'm thinking, is this really going to work for them? Because I'm also thinking about the type of business that they have. And if I have a business-to-business show, which is what my shows were, they were always business-to-business shows, then I knew or had a good feel for what that person was selling. He was selling to other businesses, or she was selling to other businesses. So having that empathy and understanding. The other thing is, I'm not talking down to that person. When I say that you've been in business for 5 years and you can't afford $500 or $1,000, whatever that amount would be. I'm not talking down to them. I'm understanding that they're in that situation, and I'm trying to say to them, and I'm trying to put it in a way that they can see, which is, hey, in 5 years from now or 10 years from now, I won't be able to afford $500 or $10,000 or $1,000. Well, I don't want to be in that situation. That's what they're thinking, and I'm really just trying to help them to see that. I'm not trying to sell them on some pie in the sky. I'm just saying, hey, I have empathy for you. I understand it. I'm trying to put it in a way that you also can see it, which is why I mentioned that. And then what I do is I just don't say anything, because what I don't want to do is I don't want to put pressure on anyone. So that's the instant reverse close. Again, I want to give credit where credit's due. Brian Tracy, thank you, sir, for helping me throughout the years. I have sold hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of advertising. My salespeople have sold millions of dollars worth of advertising with our publications, and they made those sales, and I made those sales because I always try to create a superior product, and I always made sure that the salespeople were well trained. So that's all I got for you today, my friends. The instant reverse close. If you have any questions, please send me an email. Make a comment in the comment box. Practice this instant reverse close. Practice it. I mentioned I have clients that I teach this to. If you want to have a one-on-one with me, send me an email. We'll see what we can do. We can see if we can set something up. Well, as I always say, have a great day, everybody. Come on!